option number 1 for white, and then button number 2 goes to yellow. Alright, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be working on Josh's new Nissan Pro4x, and we're going to be installing an Auxbeam switch panel. So a couple things we've already figured out. The Auxbeam 8-gang switch panel, there's a new design. If it has the slanted corners here instead of the rounded corners, then they are a little bit longer, about an inch longer and about a ½ inch wider than the old style with the rounded corners. So keep an eye out for that. If you have anything that you are putting into, some of these like sink into custom-made panels and stuff, keep an eye out for that. So we originally were thinking we were going to do it over on the driver's side, since that's kind of where the controls always tend to be, but now we're thinking that we're going to have to put it on the passenger side because of location to the battery. So these kits come with one like longer power wire and one shorter one. The longer one goes from the battery to your fusible relay, and then the shorter one goes from the relay to the controller, or vice versa, depending on your location. So battery's right here. We're going to put the switch panel right here, and it'll just kind of sit right about in like so. Notch this corner, and it'll sit nice and flat right here with a little bit of airflow under it. We already checked hood clearance, it'll work there. So the only other thing that we have to verify is that the wires that go from this to the controller are long enough to go into the cab and over where he wants it in the console. There is a fuse panel, fuse box right back here that we're going to tap into for the accessory on. And then other than that, we'll just kind of take you along as we go through it. So I'm going to get this cut, we'll get some rib nuts set in, and then get it mounted. So we went ahead and popped a couple holes in here. I notched the side of the bracket to go around the little bump here, threw some rib nuts in, and now this will bolt right here. And we're going to leave it kicked up a little bit under here so that there's extra airflow underneath the panel. Right in here to the battery. So we'll go ahead and start getting everything wired up and ready to go. I'm going to take apart the whole upper cowling so that we can have better access to the plug that's way back in here to get into the firewall and the fuse box. So we'll start getting that all taken care of. So I think we figured out where we're going to mount the actual switch panel on the inside. So this panel sits kind of down in the console. We'll show you once we get it mounted. We went ahead and used the factory supplied bracket and just kind of angled it back like this, and then this is going to end up going right along here. It'll tilt down to where it'll be sitting approximately like this in the console. So the reason that we ended up deciding to go with it like this is a couple reasons. Number one, there's not really any other place to put this, but number two, it gave us an easy enough angle to drill. So I can actually come in here and drill these holes straight on. All right, so this will make it easier to see. Basically, we've got a couple dots in there. I'm going to drill on those dots. But because of where everything lands, it makes it easier to drill straight through and not worry about getting in any weird angles. Nice, easy, clean hole. Get the other ones done, get it mounted, show you. Alright, so we've got it all mounted here. This is obviously going to stay here. This will bolt in like so. And then it'll be angled there. We'll show you that all later. But, gotta have a place for the wire to go through. And because of this end on here, I don't know why Auxbeam does this. They need to make this like a two-part clamshell. But for whatever reason, it must just be a lot more inexpensive to do it this way. So they do this. So rather than having this big hole in the bottom of the console, I don't know if you can see that through there, but that's like a 9/16 hole. What I did is there's this little rubber piece that goes in the bottom. I just put an X in it, and then I'm just basically going to cram this through here. And you should be able to cram it through relatively easily. Oop, don't lose your O-ring that just flew off. I'll grab that in a second. But you can basically shove that through there, and then once it's shoved through, that'll almost close around your wires, and that way it doesn't look like a giant hole in the bottom of your console, and you can run everything nice and neat and cleanly without getting a bunch of stuff spilled in there. So get this all thrown together and take you on to the next part. All right, so we went ahead and ran the wires up through the floorboard. We found a hole in a grommet. I would say that it's probably best to find your own. We use the drain plug for the AC. I actually popped it out, pushed down on the drain, ran the wires between the drain and the grommet, and then put it back in. Seemed to work okay, but obviously if you can find a better route, that's a good thing to do. Ran into an antifuse here, and then as you can see, we've got the switch panel right there. It is adjustable. We can tilt it up and down. So let's get the rest of it put back together here, and then we can wire up his lights and see what we can do. All right, now the Auxbeam's all in, we're gonna go ahead and wire up some ditch lights. So first thing we're gonna do is the brackets. These brackets are kind of neat. They're slotted, so you don't actually have to take the bolts all the way out under the hood. Just loosen them, get your bracket all lined up, slide it in, and then tighten it back down. So we'll get both sides installed, get some lights on, get them wired up, show you the finished product. All right, we are finally done. So here's our relay, goes down over into the battery. Here's our control box with all the extra wires coming in. So you can see, pop the lid off, all the extra controls in there. As of right now, we've only wired up his ditch lights, built him a little harness, comes up here, goes across the other side. All right, so we got the hood closed here. You can now see the ditch lights, and we'll go ahead and show you. We've got option number 1 for white, and then button number 2 goes to yellow. These are the same LEDColight ones, just like I have on my roof rack. But if we bring something a little different today, get you a little Nissan coverage here. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.